So I'm a decently fast builder. I've been playing the game for about 6 years, maybe a little bit over. And I wanted to teach you guys how to be faster builders yourselves, because a lot of time when you're playing this game can be spent building, but when you're actually like when you're building semi-inefficiently and could be building faster, you don't get to build as many things. So I wanted to use this ball as an example to see how quickly I could build it, just real quick in the first thing, before I point out some tips. So this ball is made out of inverted corners and these rounded wedge corners, and they're all stacked up like that, and then it forms a pretty good ball. Okay, so just starting things out, we're going to need, where's the block? Right here, 2 of those, 4 of those. That glitched a little bit. And then here we have one face. We're going to paint that because it's easier than painting it after. Duplicate that down, give it the space that it needs, duplicate that, put it over there, and then actually we're going to duplicate that one more time, so we're going to put that over there, and then duplicate it, and put it right there. And now we just need to get these, paint it the correct shade of blue, in glow, and then duplicate that, duplicate this, and duplicate that over to that. Now, this is a very simple shape to do. However, I did make that ball in, I don't know, about 30 seconds, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I didn't actually time it. I'm just looking at the OBS thing, and I've been talking for a bit longer than that. But even with painting, building, how many blocks is this? 32 blocks in a defined, like, preset shape really didn't take all that long. So I built the samurai mech a few days ago. I used mines for the arms so that I could go like this, and then just blow things up in front of me. I think it's a pretty cool weapon, especially since I can just go like that. Sometimes they fire backwards. I haven't tuned it yet for that, but you really can just fire mines out of the shoulders. Now, that's not the point of this. The point is to show how building half of a build and then duplicating it over can be useful in more than just simple shapes. So when I built this, I didn't build both arms at the same time. Instead, what I did was I had basic hinges like that, and then I built the rest of this arm. I hadn't added the sword yet, and then I just selected all of this by dragging, and then selected more things by hitting Control and then clicking on them, because as you can see here, just Control click, Control click, Control click. And then on this one, the right arm's a little bit different than the left arm, but I did just do that. I just duplicated it right on over. Now, some things that this will do, this will invert some of the servos, because they don't need to, like, they need to be not like that. And if it's not immediately connected to something when you do that, it needs to, like, be flipped over and, like, reconnected. This is me hitting S. That control didn't used to be in there, but now because it's, like, overwritten by being disconnected and then reconnected, it is now in there, and so is A and D. Like, A and D are both in there, when they shouldn't normally be. Another thing that can help improve your building that I've seen, a lot of people will have their normal color set to something, and then they'll just build out of that and then repaint it after. However, when you're building something with, like, complex shapes and detail, and you know what you want it to be, you can kind of just pick a shape. Here, I'll make I have a red thing here and a green thing there, and I'm trying to make a red and green cube. What I can do is I'm going to start with the green part. So I'm going to click this little button here to auto set my color to green, and that way when I add a new block, it's green. And then in this case, I would just duplicate this over, and then duplicate this down here to be like that. And I would also duplicate these. You can duplicate and then hold Alt and press an arrow, like a WASD key, to rotate that. And now I have this block here. But say I wanted to now switch back to placing blocks in red, I can color pick this, pick this here, and now I am placing blocks in red, and I don't have to go back and paint later. Another thing that can help with building is knowing how the duplicate system works. So if I have this cube here, and I just duplicate it like this, here, I'm actually going to use a shape that has a more complex side, so that it's not symmetrical on both sides. If I have this, and I just duplicate this like this, it's going to be like this, and I would have to rotate it and move it over. However, if I instead duplicate it by putting my camera on the opposite side and duplicating it across there, it'll auto-mirror to the other side, and you can just, like, mirror many things like that. You just have to move your camera to the other side, select it, and duplicate right there. Another thing you can do with that is if I have just 2 or 3 things here, and say I had a panel here, so it's hard to select, and a panel here, and a panel here. So it's hard to select all of these by dragging. I technically can in this case, but it's a little bit more difficult, and if I had a panel right here too, that would be basically impossible to select that from just that. It's not quite, but it's a lot easier to just hold control, and then click the individual parts that you want to select, and then we can go ahead and duplicate them over, as opposed to with just dragging and multiplying the whole thing. Let's say you do want to drag, though, however, the things that you want to drag have things in between them that you don't want to duplicate. So I want to duplicate this side into this side. I can actually just hold control and then drag, and that will be selected, and if I'm still holding control, I can drag, and now this will be selected without deselecting that. If you're not holding control, it just will select a whole new thing, but you can hold control, and then select only those, and then duplicate them however you want. Now, I pulled out this other mech that I've made. It's about 2 tons. It can lift up to 9.8 tons, and, like, throw it, which I think is really cool. It's just a little lifting bunny mech. I made it to be able to lift other mechs and throw them. Specifically, some of the workshop mechs that a lot of people use and then claim as theirs. I can just throw them. I can just throw them away. But one thing I did when painting this was I actually just selected every single rounded wedge 2x1 by control double-clicking one of them. And what that does is it'll select every single one in the build, and then I painted these to be blue, because I wanted to make where I had them just automatically blue. And this could be used for whatever you want. You can even, if it's of the same type of block, you can even use this for configuring, or painting, or even decals, but the decal will apply to everything that you've selected. So, like, if I reposition this, then it'll apply one big decal to everything, and the different parts will be where the different parts are, as opposed to making what you did on one block for every block. That's where duplicating comes in handy. Say you had this thing, and you wanted to duplicate it to the other side, and you did that, but now the eye is a little bit off, it's up here, it's just not very centered, and you don't really want to reposition it to make it perfectly on the opposite side. If you put a block right here, then you can select this, and then just go put your camera on the other side of the block, duplicate it, and that will automatically flip the decals pretty much, like, usually perfectly. And now we have an actual symmetrical face here with decals. Okay, I think one of the final building tips of this video is going to be if a color is already on your build and you have to make a new section of it that color, similar to before, I'm just going to paint this, and then select this. Say I was working on the hands, I can now select that color, and add these little fingertips that I can just make. Makes it a little bit more fist-like, and then it can go like that. I'm not going to actually add these on the main one, but that is an example of how you can do that without having to go in, and then find the color, and then match it up by clicking twice. Another thing you can do with this is, there's a lot of build menu stuff in here. There's quite a few blocks, but if there's a block that you want that you already have out, it's a lot easier to just grab it, because, like, here's the long hood block. To duplicate this, I just need to click on it, duplicate, and then I can use this wherever else I want. I can put this as, like, a little sheath for the hand. I'm not going to, but, like, this could be a blade, this could be whatever you want it to be. I'm gonna make that chrome for now. And then he has a shovel hand, and it's not bad. I'm not gonna use this, but it is a lot easier to grab that from duplicating than it is to go all the way into the structure thing, scroll down to form, and then grab the hood that you want. This is the long hood. And then, even if I wanted it the pink color, now I have to then paint this like that, when it is so much easier to just duplicate this once. And then do whatever you want with it.